we're building the heaviest Bronco we can, we should probably get the heaviest lipo we can fit. What's going on, everybody? We're back with episode 2 of the TRX 4000, the heavy metal Bronco, whatever you'd like to call it. We're taking a TRX 4 and we're adding every brass part I can buy for this thing, and then some. In the first episode, I basically took and installed as many brass or metal parts as I could find for the TRX 4 Bronco. Now, I bought some parts that didn't fit and I didn't use, and then I also missed some parts that I did need or could install, and those I picked up and they're sitting here in front of me. So we're gonna get those thrown onto this truck, and then we're gonna start getting into some of the ridiculous parts of it, if this wasn't ridiculous enough already. And that brings us to the 30,000 milliamp 6S battery pack that we have here from Genzace. Now this battery is usually used for like cinema drones, huge octocopter style drones that carry big, heavy cinema cameras. What we're going to do is we're going to stuff it underneath of this body. I've already done a little bit of pre-planning and it fits. Not well or easily, but it fits, or it's going to fit. And we're going to get into exactly how we're going to do that. But before that, getting into some of those parts that we talked about that I missed last time. This truck started at around 7 pounds, and right now it's just under 14 pounds. Now already it's heavier than I would recommend. This is having a 14-pound TRX4, not something I would consider a good idea if you're interested in performance. If you're just interested in having something heavy, then here you go. But what I did forget last time was I forgot the rear axle portal hangers. I got these. These are a Samex brass option. And then to match that, I picked up some of the Samex inner rear portal boxes. And lastly, I've got here the Hot Racing outer portal box cover. Now these have the additional weights that mount on. I've got these in the front already. They didn't easily mount up to my other brass parts that I used on the front. I had to actually modify the inner portion of the knuckle, but we'll see if we have to do the same with these for the rear. But those are going to go on. So with these 3 components here, we should add a decent amount more weight to the rear. Should help get us over that 14-pound mark without too much hassle. But then we have got this guy. This on its own is somewhere around 8 pounds, which is heavier than I think any truck on my shelf behind me, just this battery alone. And that is what we're going to shove underneath of this body. Now, adding weight doesn't mean adding stability, of course, and adding it onto the chassis, not a good idea. But what we're gonna do here is I'm going to remove the stock battery tray, and we're gonna put that to the side. And then to be able to fit this battery in there, it doesn't actually just fit in any way here. It sits up on top of the arches, and that technically does clear. It would actually kind of sit like this, but that's hokey and not something that I'm into. So what I'm going to do instead is that I've taken some measurements and I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim away these inner fenders in the rear to allow this to sit down. And then from there, we're going to make a nice big battery tray that fits this battery properly. And since we're in the business of adding weight, I figured I'd use some 1/8-inch thick brass stock. Seems like the perfect building material for this. Now, I picked this up off Amazon. It's typically sold to knife makers for like handle material. I'll be using a few of these to make the final battery tray. You'll see exactly how we do that as we get closer to the final result. But the first step for me is to get these rear inner fenders removed so that I can trim them based on the marks that I made already. So we got some cutting to do. I'm gonna get to that first. And after all of that work, now we've got the truck that we see here in front of us. Now, to tell you the truth, it's been a long time since I shot the beginning part of that video and the current status of this truck. In the first part of the video, we talked about all of those brass parts. All of those are installed. At this point, all of the axle parts have been upgraded. Housings, every piece of add-on brass that I could find. These axles are very heavy, probably pretty strong. It's hard to say exactly when you add that much weight what the strength is really going to be like. But that part is done. But with those pieces installed, all of the real bolt-on brass option parts have been covered. We've got, like I said, the entire axles are done, drive shafts, we've got a full metal transmission, you know, the case, the gears, the skid plate, just everything. And then we've got this huge 30,000 milliamp 6S battery that is now setting here in the chassis. To fit this battery in here, as I discussed, I did have to modify these rear fender wells. I had marked them with a Sharpie, and then I went in and I made a cut to, you know, be able to drop this thing down in there. Once I had that cut completed, I designed up some parts and 3D printed them to go in and fill the gap in the fender well. You can get a glimpse of that filler panel right inside there. Now that makes it so that you don't see the battery, and it also gave me a place where I tied in the flat battery tray that is underneath here. Now I showed you those brass strips and I haven't used those yet, but what I did is I designed the battery tray and then I cut it out of a sheet of carbon fiber. Now, I wasn't trying to use carbon fiber to be lightweight or even for the strength, but carbon fiber is really easy for me to work with. I have a Stepcraft CNC router here in the shop, and it's just really easy to work with carbon fiber. I enjoy the material. It is strong, it looks good, and I can machine it really easily with that machine. Easier than I can machine metal on that type of machine. So if I would have had some like regular sheet ABS plastic, maybe I could have used that just to, you know, save some cost, but this project really hasn't been about saving cost up to this point. So this is the base tray for it. I made the tray to fit the design, and then I added a bunch of other holes so I can add some things, you know, like battery, you know, side guards to make sure everything's retained, maybe up front as well. Also, I made double layer this, and that's where the brass is going to come in. I think that I'm going to have this base plate, and then I'm going to put the brass strips down the side, and then they will all bolt through with another layer of carbon on top. Kind of a brass and carbon sandwich, and that will help add a little bit of weight like we've been looking for, and give me a place to keep this battery safe and secure. On top of adding this very heavy, very expensive battery in here, it is 6S. And as you may know, if you own a TRX4, the stock electronics are not 6S capable. So they have to go. I've already removed the stock motor and I've installed a new motor in there. You can kind of see it, but it blends in. This is a Holmes revolver motor. I talked to John Holmes over at Holmes Hobbies and asked him for some recommendations. I told him what I was doing, gave him an outline. He knows what kind of project this is, and he pointed me towards this revolver motor that we've got in here. It's a lower KV because I'm going to be running it on 6S. He thinks that that's going to be a great way to go, but he also gave me another motor just in case, and that is a 4274 1900 kV in-runner motor. So depending on which way we go and how I like the performance of that revolver, I do have this Polar Pro that I can switch to if needed. Again, 1900 kV should be able to handle it. Hopefully the transmission can handle this power, especially on 6S. I have not upgraded the axle gears yet, neither the internal ring and pinion gear, the axle shafts, or the portal gears. And those could definitely be an area that I need to pay a little bit of attention to before this is really completely wrapped up. And now, with this battery placed into this chassis, this truck is well over 20 pounds. I have some other concerns now as well. One specifically is this stock Traxxas 2075X steering servo. I don't think that it is up to the steering duties any longer of moving a 20 some odd pound TRX4. So also while talking to Holmes Hobbies, I picked up another option, and that is this. And this is a 5th scale servo, somewhere around 2,000 ounce-inches of power. You can see the size difference here. Here's our normal 1/10 scale servo, and here is the 1/5 scale servo. This, I'm hoping to find a way to get mounted in the front. It's not gonna be easy. It doesn't fit. I mean, it really doesn't fit in any sense of the word. It won't fit between the fender wells. It doesn't fit vertically without hitting the body. So we're gonna have to get creative. I'm gonna have to machine my own mount. May have to do some modification to the chassis possibly to make it work totally. But another bonus is that, well, 2,000 ounce inches is a hell of a bonus. But The other one is that this is heavy. It's like over a pound on its own. So way to go. We add another pound of weight just by changing the servo. The ESC, I still haven't totally decided on which route to go. The easy and reasonable option would be to use the Castle Mamba X ESC. Handles 6S power. Shouldn't be a problem for this truck at all. That is one option, and I think one that is price is good, size is good, and it's capable of handling everything that we need to throw at this. But if we want to continue to be unreasonable, I also have the Castle XLX2, which is much larger. If I went with this XLX2, it's really gonna have to go like all the way in the back of the chassis because there's really just no other place to put it. I had this here for a completely different project, but this one just keeps calling my name with all of the excess that it's already seen that it, you know, it's right there. It's still unused, so I don't know. Also, I've got the Pro Scale light kit for the Bronco body. This one is the very specific light kit made for the 2021 Bronco body. It'll make all of the lights in this body just look fantastic. So I need to get that installed into here still as well. That I am going to have to work on the voltage of just to make sure that everything works properly. I just need to make sure that I'm not feeding too much power into this control unit and risk damaging the electronics. So just a few little things to cross off the list. Currently, this truck is sitting over 20 pounds. I think we're actually getting really close to the 25-pound mark, but it's not ready to run yet. We still need to get the servo in there. I need to get the ESC swapped. We need to get everything wired, and I need to work on that brass battery tray combo still. So still a lot of work to get done. It's been a wild, busy second half of the year, and this truck, not been forgotten, but it just kept getting pushed a little bit further back each time I needed to get something done. But I was happy to get it back on the bench and get some of these things kind of wrapped up so I could finish this video that I started a long time back. If you don't remember, my goal for this was to make it look like a fairly stockish or, just regularly upgraded TRX4. You can see that it's got some brass axle parts and it's got new wheels and tires, but beyond that, it doesn't look overly crazy. I'm not going to put a brass roof rack on it to, advertise that I was trying to add weight in a ridiculous way. I'm trying to keep it really subdued. If you just saw this truck sitting somewhere, you would have no idea that it is an absolute backbreaker to pick up. All of the weight that I've added up to this point has really just been replacements of parts. Nothing has been just like sticking blocks of lead weights or things like that in places to just add weight without them having some sort of function at this point. Not saying that something ridiculous like that won't happen, but at this point, these are just column upgrades if you'd like, but it's definitely keeping it interesting. If you guys have other suggestions of things to do that keep the stealth outer appearance, but add weight in an interesting way, absolutely drop them in the comments below. Thinking possibly our next episode, we could be over the 30-pound mark. Then things are getting wild. And for one last time, again, I don't suggest this as an actual good idea. Having even a regular trail truck get over 10 pounds is just leaving performance on the table. But that's obviously not what this has been about. So with that, hopefully you guys are still enjoying the TRX 4000. I know there was a lot of comments of where video updates on it. Here was one to satisfy a little bit of that need, show you guys what's been going on. But as always, thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoy these videos. Subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.